Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. A little bit of wind on the face, a little bit of wind everywhere, including at my arse, but only when I need to take a dump on a particularly notorious MP or Prime Minister. But of course, you didn't come here to find out which way the wind blows. Now, originally, I was planning to put a video out about the media and the politicians, and I still will, but it's now going to be combined into effectively one big video instead of one or two little ones. So where do I begin with all this? Well, first off, there's going to be a little bit of a shameless plug. No, I'm not asking for money. I'm basically going to be doing a live stream with the Patriotic Christian, hopefully on Wednesday. And it shall be very interesting to hear what needs to be said. But one thing is for certain, there definitely needs to be something said about reform. Now, I already know that a lot of people may come into the comments and say, you're splitting the vote, do you want Labour and Tory in power? No, I fucking don't, let me tell you. But I'm going to tell you right now, there is no way I am voting for reform until Nigel Farage, Richard Trash Talker Tice, Lee Aggravated Anderson, and Anne Witless Widdicombe all give up their positions and resign from the party, period. While I do accept that some people quite rightly say they are the biggest party we've got right now and they are the best chance we've got of getting the traitor party, I mean the Labour Party, or maybe I was right first time, out of power, I don't think the right answer is reform, quite frankly. After all, Nigel Farage has made it quite clear that he wants to stab Tommy Robertson in the back. Even if he doesn't actually say those words, he effectively libelously slandered him regarding how he makes his living. Now please remember this point for later, because we'll be revisiting it again, mark my words. But before we go into any more of that, I now want to turn my attention to everyone's most hated traitor, Keir the Traitor Starmer. I mean, at this point, the man could literally be put in the Oxford Dictionary as the definition of evil, quite frankly. And why do I say that? Well, Keir the Traitor Starmer decided to do another speech libelously slandering us lot by saying that we are far right once again. It seems to me like Keir the Traitor Starmer can't think of anything else. The number of excuses he has totals in the hundreds, while the amount of credible arguments you could probably count on one hand. And I assure you it's not 5. Every single time Keir the Traitor Starmer opens his treacherous lying mouth, he always seems to engage in that legendary art of projection and deflection. He likes to deflect it all away from him and put the blame on everyone else. I mean, at this point, Keir the Traitor Starmer is about as convincing as a Judas in a Bo Peep outfit. Quite frankly, the man has no right whatsoever to slander the British people. He has no right whatsoever to say anything about the British people, considering this sectarianist bastard has made it his civic duty to do everything he can to protect the Muslim community rather than the native Brits he's supposed to serve. And Keir the Traitor Starmer wonders why his approval rating is plummeting fast. I don't think he quite understands that nobody is buying his bullshit. He wouldn't be able to sell his bullshit even if he put it free of charge in the fucking bargain bin. The only thing he might just about sell, if he decided to do it, is 5 minutes of quality time with Keir the Traitor Starmer himself. And I assure you, the people that want to spend that 5 minutes of quality time will not be going over there with some milk and a slice of cake. And that's stroke number 1, trying to be witty. That's if they can keep the cake out of my hands. Anyway, the point is, they do not want to be with Keir the Traitor Starmer to have a good civil talk. They want to give this man an absolute royal bollocking, and I can't honestly blame them. But I cannot condone, of course, acts of illegalities, whether it be violence or what have you. Though I will say this much. it's not just Keir the traitor Starmer that this particular trait applies to, but it also applies to a lot of the mainstream career politicians and of course the mainstream media. And that title is coward. I mean, Keir the traitor Starmer has about as much bravery as Courage the Cowardly Dog has. But again, you could say that about all of the mainstream media and mainstream politicians, like Nigel the phony Farage, like Kemi Down Badnock, like Jess Phillips, like Rachel Thieves. Got to make sure I get that one right. Let's not also forget Julia Hartley Brewer, or again, maybe I was right first time, who basically want to kick a man while he's down. Or what about GB News? How there was I guess you could call it a triumvirate of evil harpies that decided they were going to use the opportunity to slag off Musk and Tommy Robinson. Though at least Musk can defend himself, while Tommy the Robinson cannot, because he's currently languishing in solitary confinement. And I know some people will ask, have you listened to the phone call? Yes, I have. I have listened to every second of that phone call, and what I saw was a man crying out for help. Now the shills amongst us will say, oh, he's a weak man. Oh, I think I'm being beat. Anyway, there are people who say that Tommy Robinson is being weak for calling out for help. It is not weak to call out for help. It shows that you understand what your limits are. And I quite frankly nearly had another stroke. Can't blame Tommy Robinson for the fact that he is suffering while he is in solitary confinement. Hell, medical teams in the prisons have point blank said to Tommy Robinson that holding him in solitary confinement like this and living off of only canned tuna, which in and of itself is illegal, and I'll get to that in a moment, but him being held in for 21 hours in solitary confinement, even the fucking medical teams have come out and said that this is not good for his health, that this is effectively torture. This is effectively physical and mental torture. And that is against Article 3 of the Human Rights Act. But of course the mainstream media won't tell you this. You know the drill, folks, because say it with me, it doesn't suit the narrative. And how many politicians or mainstream media outlets, or even just regular journalists for the oligarchy, have you heard speak about the injustice that is being carried out on Tommy Robinson? I can count that in exactly one hand. Zero. No one on the mainstream has got the balls, whether up here or down there, or in my case both, to actually speak about the absolute injustice and the absolute torture that Tommy Robinson is going through. And I accept that Nigel the phony Farage rather, can't exactly welcome Tommy Robinson with open arms, and he has principles. I accept that. That's fair enough. But you know what? You live and die by the sword, is the way I slice it. And there was such an easy way for you to avoid all this nonsense that's now going out, Nigel Farage. Do you know what that is? It's something your mother usually tells you. And I've heard it all too many times with my mother. Anyway, there's something that's said by most people's parents. If you haven't got anything nice to say, don't say it at all. It's as simple as that. Nigel, you didn't have to go out of your way to backstab us not only twice, but 3 times. You did not have to go out of your way to say that Tommy Robinson is a grifter. Because that's basically what you said when you said that he, and I quote, he makes his living going to prison. End quote. You didn't have to say that, Nigel Farage, but you did. That's on you. That's why Elon Musk is quite rightly calling for your resignation as leader of the Reform Party. Quite frankly, I'd like him to resign from the Reform Party, period. Because as much as I appreciate everything he's done for this country, like Brexit, there comes a time where everyone's swan song comes along at some point. And I think Nigel Farage truly has had his swan song moment. And I think it's time for the man to go. As for Keir the traitor Starmer, he had his swan song the moment he entered the houses of treachery. I mean Parliament. Or again, maybe I was right first time. He had his little swan song the moment he was elected into 10 Downing Street. And frankly, he's been like a cockroach all along, hard to get rid of, politically speaking. Now, I want you to remember, or do you remember rather, that point I made about how he slandered Tommy Robinson, how the mainstream media had been going out of their way to libelously slander Tommy Robinson. I'll tell you what all these motherfuckers are. They're cowards. They are spineless fucking cowards. Unconditionally, unequivocally, indubitably. They're all a bunch of spineless cowards. And they do this, as I said, they are kicking a man while he's down. It's like if someone goes out of their way, pulls a sword out in public, and basically starts hacking children in half. That's basically the lowest of the low. You are targeting the people that cannot defend themselves. You are targeting the people who do not have a public platform to stand on. He has Urban Scoop, but right now, because he's a bankrupt, he is depending on Urban Scoop to pay him a salary. Something that these shills on the left forget. But then they would rather Tommy wither and die, quite frankly, because anything that threatens the oligarchy is a threat to them, period. Anybody that can challenge the oligarchy, in their eyes, must be eliminated by hook or by crook. And let me be clear, I'm not saying that Tommy Robinson's an angel. He's admitted he's no angel. He's admitted contempt of court, but where Nigel Farage got his facts wrong is it's not the third time he's pleaded guilty to contempt of court. And quite frankly, the second time that he was sent to prison on contempt of court, he didn't actually break that law. Because everything about the Leeds Crown Court case about the Muslim grooming gangs who were viciously R-ing innocent English schoolgirls, everything was already out in the public domain. Therefore, Tommy Robinson could not have broken the law. And what I find funny is the triumvirate of harpies, particularly the one on the left, even went as far as saying that he nearly collapsed the trial because of it. No, he fucking didn't, number one. And number two, she went on to go as far as saying that Tommy Robinson is not a political prisoner. Okay then, you want to take this down that route. Who made the charge, basically? Who decided to put in the public interest that Tommy Robinson should be locked up for contempt of court? That would be the Attorney General, who I would argue is one of the most political figures as far as legal law is concerned. Now, do you want to say that this is not a politically motivated imprisonment? Do you want to have the balls to say that Tommy Robinson is not a political prisoner when the fucking Attorney General is going out of their way to lock them up? That's the thing. Women like that girl, I don't know her name, I'll probably have to look it up when I watch the video again, because I have watched it. But people like her have no right to spew absolute libelous slander. I guarantee you, if we flip the roles and Tommy Robinson said that shit about her, he would be facing libel court charges, just like that. I wonder how she would feel if people took her to court for that, because she's knowingly lying about the motivation behind this imprisonment. But she's a coward, much like Nigel Farage, much like Julie Heartless Brewer, much like GB News, much like Channel 4, the BBC, ITV, Sly News, the whole fucking lot of them. They do not have the guts to have Tommy Robinson on their stage, on their their little shows. They will never have the guts to do that ever again. And do you know why that is? Do you know why they won't let him on? How they have got all the courage in the world when it comes to kicking him while he's on the floor, but they won't dare let him stand back up and fend for himself. Do you know why? Because he'd wipe the floor with them in less than 30 seconds. He would go in, and the moment he starts speaking, their arguments would collapse. Just like that. They would have nothing to go on. But let's face it, the media and people like Nigel the phony Farage, they'll never debate Tommy Robinson. They'll never have him on their platforms because of the aforementioned reason. So I'll put this challenge out directly to Nigel Farage and the mainstream media. Since you lot don't have the bollocks to speak to Tommy Robinson, I'll speak in his stead. I'll speak for him. I think Paul Thorpe would also take up that offer. I think Richard Inman would also take up that offer. I think Maya Toosey would take up that offer. I think there are a whole load of fucking people who would take up that offer and put you in your fucking place, quite frankly. And that's the thing. And people can say this next bit with me. I'm not going to sugarcoat a motherfucking thing. I'm not going to mince my words. I'm going to say it exactly how it is. And I will do my best not to bullshit you. And I can tell you right now, there are some media shills that need to be put in their place. I mean, Nigel Farage is up there, but there are some problems I have with him right now. And I am kind of voicing them on the video I'm doing right now. So, yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, Abatha_X, yeah, that's fair enough. I'll be talking just here, just bear that in mind, alright? So, one of me old mates, but I digress. The fact of the matter is, as much as Nigel Farage has done a lot of good for us, he hasn't got the guts to speak to Tommy Robinson. I wonder if he's got the guts to talk to somebody like me, or Paul Thorpe, or Maya Toosey, or Richard Inman. Though, quite frankly, I think they want nothing to do with Nigel Farage now, after the backstabbing that he's done of British patriots, and of course Tommy Robinson himself. That's the cold bitter truth on the matter. He's not going to want to talk about this anymore. I don't think even Richard Tice, or Anne Widdecombe, or Lee Anderson are going to want to talk about it. What Lee Anderson said, as far as, do you want to shut up or go out? Do you want to come up here and speak? As Paul Thorpe said, and I've said, I'll happily stand up on that bloody stage and I'll give them something to really moan about. And believe you me, they won't enjoy it. Because I'll be dropping truth bombs like I'm doing F-bombs, quite frankly. And I've definitely dropped a plentiful number of those. But here's the thing. We have got to put this message out there. We have got to go far and wide with this. Because reform, as much as a lot of people want to sign on to them, and as much as people don't want to split the vote, as it were, the cold, bitter truth is, reform are not the right answer at the moment. Maybe, if those other people resign, maybe, just maybe, I could safely say, yeah, I'll back them for now. But it would have to be those people are gone, including Nigel Farage, quite frankly. He simply cannot keep getting away with libelously slandering Tommy Robinson. He cannot get away with slandering the British public and calling them that lot, or calling us far-right thugs. He cannot get away with that. And I sure as shit ain't gonna let him get away with it. It's all down to you now. If necessary, I will go down to one of these conferences and I will let Nigel Farage know exactly what I think. The only thing I might restrain myself on is the swearing, and that's about it. What say you, Nigel Farage? Though I will say this much, to be devil's advocate here. There's one way, there's two choices you have right now, as far as making amends on this is concerned. And your two choices are, you either openly apologise to the public unconditionally and say you read the room wrong, that you were wrong about Tommy Robinson, you're wrong to slander the British people, and that you basically get your act together, or you know where the door is, don't let it hit you on the way out. But we can all shout at you all we want. The choice comes down to you, Farage. And as I said, if you don't want to debate Tommy Robinson, I'll happily debate you. I'll happily put you in your place, essentially, about a lot of these issues, because I think you're fundamentally wrong on them. I think you underestimate just how many people who are Tommy Robinson supporters voted for you at the general election. And the traditional Brit maker made that point, and I will restate it again, that back in April 2024, you were still nothing when you were in the Reform Party. And that lot, can very quickly put you back to square one. We can put you back to April 24 whenever we want. Never forget that. You may think the power is yours, but no. The power has always belonged to the people. And the people have the power to make or break politicians like you, Nigel Farage, and like Keir the traitor Starmer. It's down to you what you do. It's down to you how you play this out. But the way I look at it, when Elon Musk, who I would argue is one of the most influential people, definitely one of the wealthiest, if not the wealthiest people in the world, is telling you to resign, that has to have some weight behind it. If someone like him is willing to withdraw their support from you and are potentially willing to donate to Tommy Robinson, that is not something you can simply ignore. I know you put out a tweet as well. You said you were acting all shocked as well and being like, oh, he's a remarkable fellow, but on this he's wrong. I'm sorry, but no, he isn't. You called him a grifter when he is nothing of the sort. You libelously slandered people like me and people like Paul Thorpe and Richard Inman and Maya Toosey, and you've referred to us as far-right thugs. You are the one in the wrong here. Do not try to deflect the blame like Keir the traitor Starmer is. You will never be as good as Keir the traitor Starmer as far as deflecting blame is concerned. That's the thing. As much as I want to kick the arse of Labour and the traitor party, sorry, just Labour, or again, maybe I was right first time, I will not hesitate to put people on our side in their place as well. Do not think for 1 second you are safe because you are seen as a person who is looking to promote the best of Britain. You're not, quite frankly. You've even said that Islam is taking over and we may as well make peace to them. Do you know what that really means? That means you're surrendering to them. And ironically, what is Islam's definition? The definition... Stroke number 2. The definition of Islam is submit or surrender. So he basically wants us to surrender to him. Like fuck am I? I'll never surrender to a third world shithole barbarian death cult that seeks to wage war with all the unbelievers who categorically say that any other scripture other than the Quran is unacceptable. These lefty preachers always talk about multiculturalism and diversity and all the good that Islam does, yet they forget the fact that they are responsible for the vast majority of all the grooming gang cases that are happening here in Britain. But that's something, of course, the mainstream media will not want to tell you. So people like Tommy Robinson expose these grooming gangs. Don't you forget that, Farage. Don't you forget that. How would he be? How would Tommy forget his own things? But anyway, don't forget that, Farage. He's a hero in our eyes. What have you done to expose grooming gangs? I'll tell you what you've done. Nothing. Tommy Robinson forced the media and the police to talk about these grooming gangs. The things that the media and the police wanted to keep quiet. that they wanted the victims to shut up for the sakes of diversity. Now, of course, everyone wants the world to all get along with one another. Everyone wants to get on with one another. But here's the thing. The cold bitter truth is there are some people who do not want this. There are some ideologies that would rather have us buried 6 feet under. The same people that Keir the traitor Starmer is supporting. The same people that Tommy Robinson is trying to expose. But of course Starmer wants Tommy Robinson locked up, ideally offed, so that then nothing can stand in the way. But what he fails to understand is that this problem isn't going to go away. Islam is not going to go away. The grooming gangs are not going to go away unless he does something fundamental about it. But he seems about as interested in that as I am of getting into a gym. Cheers, mate. Appreciate your support. But that's the thing. Most people don't understand that we have a fight on our hands. We are fighting a war. It may not be on the battlefields. It may not be out there in other countries. But we are fighting a war. We're fighting our own political war here in the UK. And the civic duty of each and every one of us is to ensure that Keir the traitor Starmer is basically removed from power. It's time for us to, metaphorically speaking, take out the trash. It's good to see some good in the world. Just a lovely lady and her family come along and give somebody a high five. The ticket, not the actual high five. Anyway, the bottom line in all of this is that our career politicians, including Nigel Farage, and the mainstream media, they don't have the guts to confront Tommy Robinson directly. They don't have the guts to actually challenge his views. Because how do you beat Tommy Robinson? If we were to play devil's advocate here, how do you beat Tommy Robinson? You debate him and prove his views wrong. But the government, the media and all that, they don't have the balls to do so. They don't have the guts. Because they know full well Tommy will take out the trash. He will just wipe the floor with them. Just like that. Because their arguments are basically far right and racist. But whenever they're asked to prove those points, all of a sudden it's like air. Gone. The moment they're asked to provide evidence, their arguments crumble. While Tommy Robinson is out there putting facts out there, statistics, showing theological and geological movements, statistics, everything else. He's able to prove his points. The media do not have that capacity. The media have as much chance of defeating Tommy Robinson as I have going to the moon in a rocket and getting a big enough rocket to fit me in, quite frankly. Trudeau's resigned.
Yeah, well, when I was filming this, he was live doing it, giving the resignation speech.
Oh wow, whoa, jeez Louise. So everything is kicking off. Thanks for that, man. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Man, news does go round. So Justin Trudeau resigns. About time, the filthy little cockroach. But I digress.
We are Tommy Robinson.
We are indeed Tommy Robinson.
Yeah. You are Norwich Tommy Robinson.
I appreciate that. Yeah. I think that might be a bit of a stretch, but I appreciate the compliment nonetheless. I just need a moment. God, didn't know I was that popular. Jesus. But yeah, the way I look at it, Nigel Farage, not Elon Musk, what am I on about? Nigel Farage, Richard Tice, Anne Whitlas-Widdicombe, Lee Anderson, mainstream media, you're all a bunch of cowards. You haven't got the guts to debate Tommy Robinson head on. All you've got is the same dog whistle terms that all the other NPCs have of far right and racist. If you really want to disprove Tommy Robinson and prove him to be a fraud, have him on your shows. Have him on your platforms. Have a debate with him. Have you got the guts to do that? I know I've got a big gut, but I know I've got the guts as well. That's the thing. The media doesn't. Nigel Farage doesn't. All the other shills in the left, do not. The establishment doesn't dare take on Tommy Robinson. Because it won't just be a David versus a Goliath. It'll be David versus a fucking satellite firing a laser down on him. Good luck beating that shit, let me tell you. Do you think your rock is going to reach the stratosphere? I don't. So if you don't have anything nice to say about Tommy, your best bet, and this is my advice, don't fucking say anything about Tommy Robinson. Hell, I've already got a lefty NPC who tried to start spreading shit about free plasticine and 10 names Tommy and all that shit. He's gone now, though, of course, because we don't support terrorist sympathisers here. At the end of the day, you, Nigel Farage, and the mainstream media, you keep throwing your little frisbees out with your name tags on them. But the way I slice it, we're going to live in that wonderful place, that wonderful far-off place called the real world. And we're going to actually take out the trash as far as Keir the traitor Starmer is concerned. Rather than focusing on slandering a man who can't defend himself, how about you take on someone who can? But then you never will. Because we all know the moment you take on someone who is in the field with Tommy, you will lose that argument, and your career will be like everyone else's career when they try to take on Tommy Robinson. Destroyed.